Hello, good morning. Welcome to Press Talk on Television Nigerian. As usual, on Press Talk, we dissect and analyze stories that made headlines in the media. And here we have our guest for today. My name is Samuel Apan, and my guest here is Sylvanus Okwe and Dan Atai. Gentlemen, welcome to Press Talk.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, now we begin where President Muhammadu Buhari has signed into law the Deep Offshore Amendment Bill. The President also commended the National Assembly for their cooperation during the process, which he did not sign the bill. Sylvanus, let me start with you. What is your thoughts on this bill?
Well, the bill is a commendable one. From what I heard from the analysis of experts, it will add to our revenue on oil from, I think, taxation on international companies in the oil industry. And the bill was sponsored. I want to give kudos to the sponsors of the bill, Senator Albert Akpan and Senator Ifeanyi Uba. They did well. The bill is thorough, and it will add to the revenue of the country.
Now, Mr. Dan, the President said the bill is going to generate over $500 million for the Nigerian government. Is this commendable?
Yeah, it's commendable, and the act is timely in the sense that even before now, before the bill, of course, we know that companies and shareholders in oil companies and other international companies who are exploring oil in our shore here, they are somehow illegally transporting and smuggling crude. So signing the bill to make it legalized for them to pay tax is a good one. So they can come openly instead of smuggling anything or having a secret bilateral trade with part of the NNPC corporation. You understand? So I think bringing it to bear to the open, just the way you see normal trade through the border, legal trade that is generating tax, is another way of doing this thing. Offshore. Offshore means not at the shore. People who need to do business from outside, not at the shore of where they exploit the oil. So this means they can come legally now, pay the tax, and take whatever they want to take legally, or cooperate or invest in the country. For that will generate tax.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Sylvanus, now most Nigerians in some quarters are concerned for the fact that, yes, the bill is commendable, but the President signed the bill from London. His Chief of Staff took the bill for the President to sign all the way from London. Is this, how do you relate it?
Well, this has taken us back to the period of political uncertainty. During I talk of the 2009, when President Yar'Adua was very sick abroad. For many months, our budget was not signed because the President did not do the needful by transferring power to the Vice President. It caused law, and it almost created chaos in this country. It was the intervention of the Nigerian Senate under the able leadership of Senator David Alechenumak that introduced the doctrine of necessity that conferred on Goodluck Ebele Jonathan the title of the acting president. I think this president ought to have learned from history. He has committed a constitutional infraction by not towing the paths of integrity. What he ought to have done as the president was to transfer the powers to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to act in his stead. You see, Section 145 is right that when a president is going on a vacation, he will write to the National Assembly transferring power to the Vice President. I don't know why a bill, an important bill, concerns to our national growth, our revenue, should be taken abroad to be signed. This is mockery on our sovereignty. This is a direct assault on our democracy, and our national integrity is at stake. The president did not do well, and I must, with all sense of responsibility, condemn the act of taking the bill outside the shores of this country. When we have the number 2, you see, the essence of having a vice president is to act when the president is unavailable. And what they have done is to show us that there is no regard for the office of the revered vice president in the Nigerian constitution.
Thank you. Mr. Dan,
Yeah.
now the president signing this bill
Yeah.
in London, does it make the office of the vice president redundant?
No, not at all. You know, my friend here is a lawyer, but from my little knowledge of legislative business and order, which I've once practiced, I could tell you that the constitutional infraction that he's talking about stipulates 21 days if the government, the president must leave the shore of the country. And within that 21 days, power, he could, you understand, he could hand over immediately upon leaving, and he may decide within 21 days to do that. So, in as much as I do not support the idea of leaving the shore of the country, signing a bid there, I still want to blame it on the Constitution, that the problem is still within the Constitution, the legal framework upon which we live in the country. You understand? If the Constitution give an injunction or empowers Mr. President that within 21 days you can be anywhere and rule the country, then it can be so, except Mr.
The president, there was no exact time stated in the Constitution. Section 145 is clear.
Hold on. You cannot say so, because you people that are lawyers,
it is clear. Constitution is clear.
No, it's not clear, because like you heard from your Constitution, I'm telling you the angle of legislation. You understand? And the legislation,
federal legislation,
of course, is there in the Constitution.
Which Constitution?
I don't know how to quote it, because I will not just oppose the quote. You understand? But you, as a legal person, you can quote it. But I can bet you that if you go to court today or listening to analysts, you will hear different, quotation from the same Constitution backing Mr. President Act. However, I don't support that act. But I can tell you, it's still backed up by the law, by our own law in the country.
So if you say you don't support the act,
it means that the Constitution needs to be reviewed. Because if you are quoting one section of the Constitution, there was a time in this country, the people were making hell of noise about certificate, WAEC certificate to present as a panacea for you to qualify to run on the office of the president. But when we go into the same Constitution, even himself here was arguing it, but we now later saw that the equivalent does not spell that it must be WAEC certificate. Are you getting what I'm saying? So in the law, in our 1999 Constitution as amended, there are so many anomalies, and that is why we are calling for constitutional conference and review. Perhaps if it cannot be reviewed, they should have a referendum to jettison some part of the Constitution and do away with the fiat military laid down rules there, so that we can practice democracy.
So now,
let me quickly react to him. Some of his assertions. He made mention of WAEC certificate. The Constitution did not say you must have WAEC certificate before you contest for the office of
that is not the subject.
Please, we want to stay within the confines of
that's not the subject.
But if the Constitution did not envisage any number of days,
it did.
I am telling you from section 145, which said that upon transmission of letter to the chairman of the National Assembly, which is the Senate President, that the President is going on vacation as our President is on, the Vice President automatically assumes position.
That is the section you quote now, 145. It has it doesn't. Now what will you do when you go on break?
I'm telling you.
I have my phone here.
Just let me come. You will react to it when I
from one to end, so that we get the clear picture of what Abakari just did.
If there was any number of days that you must be on, then the Constitution is not valid, because a president can be sick for 2 days without being able to perform the duties of his office. And what the constitutional provision said was that if the president is not around or on vacation or unable to perform the duties of the office of the vice president,
Yeah.
as President Muhammad Buhari currently is. Because you cannot be performing the duties of the president of Nigeria from London, from a foreign soil. You are on vacation. What you ought to have done rightly was to transfer the powers of the presidency in acting capacity to the vice president. And President Muhammad Buhari is in breach of the law for not doing so.
Well,
and he has rolled us back to the days of constitutional and political uncertainty
If you are,
under the Yar'Adua
if you
president.
are clearly
I'll ask you this
justified,
question.
yeah.
This act of the president, will it further, people are saying there's a frosty relationship between the office of the president and the vice president. Will it further worsen the relationship
In politics,
between the president?
anything is possible. Anything is possible in politics.
We are talking reality.
No, yes, but
Politics.
I am still telling you that that section of the constitution that you quote, you read the surface. I'm telling you, you read this. We are going to, when you call for break, I'm going to bring that same constitution here. We review it to the end so that we will know. Like I said, I don't support that action, but I know it is backed up by the law, because that is the kind of law we have in the country. And back to your question, yes, there are some political, bureaucracy that is going on, of course, within the presidency, within the cartel. Of course, the president have made a statement one time that if anybody wants to see him, the person should be referred to
The chief of staff.
the chief of staff,
The SGF.
the chief of staff or the SGF. You understand? And then from the constitutional angle, some people were not happy. You understand? And then the president still, I think the office of the presidency still went ahead to justify that act. You understand? To justify that act. So if you ask me that there are political anomalies or power tussles between the office of the vice president and that of the Mr. President, I'll tell you, yes. Everything is politics. It's politics that brought them there, that took them there in the first place. And they will continue to play politics until they live there.
Okay, we move to our next headline, where Nigeria has given conditions for reopening of Nigerian land borders. Now, as one of the conditions, the federal government said that Nigeria would not accept imported goods that were repackaged by neighboring countries and brought into Nigeria. So
I think this is bold. This is commendable that our president, our government is now taking pragmatic steps towards protecting the interest of the citizens. Yeah. We have had occasions when expired products are repackaged and shipped into the country. Nigeria was like a dumping ground of other countries. And now this step, we just hope that they'll back it up with action and not just mere talking about. We also have had occasions when these officers in charge of the border
this effort of the federal government,
yes, to close the border. What I have always said was that the closing of the border was unnecessary from the start. It was needless. It could have been avoided. Why? Because all we needed was a good vetting of all the goods coming in. And that good vetting would have checked repackaging. You understand what I say? Closing up the border has enthroned this country and many of its citizens into hardship. But had it been all the agencies necessary for checking goods that are coming in are alive to their responsibilities, there would have been no need to close down these borders. It's commendable. The action is very commendable.
Now, Mr. Dan, do you have a different opinion?
No, not quite to that border closure, yes. A different opinion. I said, yes, partly we were not ripe for border closure entirely in terms of food sufficiency. I said that. But in terms of security, logistics, and this smuggling, yes, it is justifiable. And the ban on imported goods, some imported goods. And this act of Mr. President telling foreign nations that if you want to package anything, don't package it from abroad, come here and package. That is productivity. That is to enable our people get the job. Instead of them having the job there, we have the job here. That is local content. If you bring your goods, or if you don't want to bring what you want to package from there, we have the natural and mineral resources and raw materials here. When you come here, whatever you want to package there, in London, or in Venezuela, or in Brazil, or in Libya, or in South Africa, we have them here. Bring your machines. package them, produce those things here. We'll give you the enabling environment. You understand? You do the business here and you employ our people. It's just to create jobs. So the border closure will create jobs. We even give us sense. And let me tell you, like I said earlier, yesterday, a bit day before yesterday, I said economic growth, to destroy is easier than to build. If what you destroy in 1 year you want to build it could even take you 3 years to rebuild that thing. So building or rebuilding or revamping our economy is not going to be an easy task, and except all of us collectively accept that we must do this and we must follow the trend that which Mr. President is following, we may not be an independent nation. Because for you to be independent, completely economically independent, you must be productive in your nation. And as far back as I know, since 1960 to now, we have been a consuming nation. So it's a step in the right direction. If you're just
joining us, this is Press Talk on Television Nigerian. We'll go on a short break. The program continues.
I pledge to Nigeria, my country. So goes the opening lines of the 6-line National Pledge of Nigeria. Today, not a few, whether young or old, merely recite the National Pledge as a matter of routine or tradition, with their hearts being poles apart from the very spirit, creed, and essence of the pledge. Many simply do not understand its purport or feel the import of it, while many others choose to observe the pledge in breach only. Today we have decided to walk on the footpath of the very words of the National Pledge, keeping its vision and essence in our hearts, in our souls, and in our minds.
I pledge
Nigeria,
my country,
to be faithful,
loyal, and honest,
to serve Nigeria with all my strength,
to defend her unity,
and uphold her honor and glory.
So help me God. Nigeria, no doubt, will truly be the giant of Africa, developed and well rated in all indices, if her national pledge is treated with sacred obedience. It's on us, it's our duty and responsibility to make this country a better place. Let's live the pledge.
Welcome back. This is still Press Talk on Television Nigerian. Now move to the next headline, where the Supreme Court rejects suit for review of Walter Onnoghen, that's the ex-CJN removal. Mr. Silvanus, you are a lawyer.
Well, what the Supreme Court has done is the needful. They did the needful because prosecutors were not serious with the case. When the presiding judge, revered Justice Olabode Rodsvivo, sat to hear the case, the prosecutors did not show up. In the event of that, what do you expect the court to do other than to throw the suit out? And this was an opportunity for those prosecutors to follow this case up to the Supreme Court, so that we will see and hear from the Supreme Court whether the unnecessary interference of the executive in the business of the judiciary is permitted by law. And they have failed. Those prosecutors have failed in giving Nigerians the opportunity to know the true position of law in the condemnable suspension of Onnoghen. You know what we have continued to clamor for as lawyers and as concerned Nigerians is the total independence of the judiciary. Because when the judiciary is afraid that the president might sack me at the date to Onnoghen tomorrow or next month, how do you even think they will be able to give judgments that will go against the interests of the president? And those prosecutors took the case on seriously by not appearing before the court. And I think they should look into it, but because most times are threatened to stay away from their cases.
Mr. Dan, will you say this suit was a waste of time?
No. To threaten to stay away from their cases. Nobody threatens them to stay away from their cases. Let me tell you, some of those judges and lawyers, by the time they go outside the court and view certain things about what they are to defend or to prosecute, they tell the truth behind the court.
So when they say that there is no merit in the case, they stay away.
Yeah, they stay away.
As a lawyer, you have the responsibility to check your case very well before bringing it to the court.
See,
it's not when you bring it to start checking.
They never did. You understand? They never did.
They did. Because even me, I can challenge that suspension of
if you look at what indicted Onegan, he himself at the time, I think he confessed.
He didn't.
Hold on.
He never
confessed. Hold on.
He never confessed.
Please allow me to. When
I'll come back to you.
No, you were talking. So allow me to. You are misappropriating facts, and it's not good for our listeners.
Well, it is good for our listener because I know what I'm saying. See, Onogan himself, when they have told him that the option for him is either to resign or face prosecution. You understand? He decided to beat about the bush, trying to, beat the face of Nigerians because he was the chief CGN. I do not support that. Onogan was like politicized. But it is act of politics that appoints a CGN. Even within the law, a judge is expected to be what? To be the God in the affairs of men. Am I lying? And if you are supposed to be adjudged as a God in the affairs of men, it means you must have no questionable character at all. Where people will begin to doubt your integrity or to doubt your functionality in the capacity of which you occupied. That we didn't see in Onogan. You understand? So I rest my case there.
Let me quickly react to some of his assertions. He said you must have unquestionable character.
We were surprised. You must not have questionable characters. Yes. You must not have questionable. I say the judge are supposed to be what? The gods in the affairs of men.
Integrity.
You must be seen as pure.
Yes.
Like a god.
You'll be given opportunity to speak.
So this is the case now. When Onogan's accounts were published for all to see, we were surprised. Somebody who rose from the position of from a high court judge, court of appeal to Supreme Court, and his account is reading that low amount. Nigerians vindicated him.
That he had no offshore account. He had no transaction, illegal transaction.
There was no illegal. See what happened to
corrupt businesses.
Onogan was
that is why in the court of law sometimes you see the black, you turn it white. You see white, you turn it black.
Wow! Television Nigeria sparkling around the whole world. Welcome to Television Nigeria, the #1 fast-growing satellite TV based in the heart of Abuja, transmitting on the free-to-air bouquet on night concert platform. Television Nigeria, the home of movies, documentaries, music, birthday parties, entertainment, events, and many more. You can reach us at Television House opposite White House Mansion, Guzape area, Abuja, or visit us at www.tvn.com or call us on 080-9153-5054. Television Nigeria, the #1 choice of the whole world.
Okay, you have just 1 minute to give your parting words.
You see, what happened was that the ruling All Progressive Congress wanted to perfect their rigging plan in preparation for the 2019 presidential elections. And Onogan was seen as an obstacle because they knew the case would go to the courts. And they feared that Onogan, who was not in control, who they might not be able to control or to pocket, would give judgment that will have adverse effect on the outcome of the elections. That was why Amechi and other chieftains of the ruling of Progressive Congress orchestrated his removal. It was not done because he had questionable character. Even if you check there, in politics, anybody can be indicted. They can plant evidence anywhere. These people are powerful. These cabals can remove anybody. Even President Muhammad Buhari, they can plant something if they want to remove him or unseat him. There is always something to talk about or to use to remove you from power. So Nogen was just a victim of circumstances.
Thank you. That's the much we have for you on Press Talk today. It has been Silvanus Okwe and Dan Atai in the studio. So join us tomorrow for another edition of Press Talk. I remain Samuel Akwan.